Hey everyone, it's Kevin from Quiet Ego, and today I'll be taking a second look at Soulward, a game I've already discussed in my recent Best of GMTK Game Jam 2019 video. If you haven't seen that already, check it out up here, but don't worry because I'll be recapping what I said at the top of this video. The reason I'm making a whole new video dedicated to this game is because one day before I put out this video, the designers released a pretty substantial update to the game. Not only did this render my review pretty much obsolete, it also made the game way better. It was nice to see a designer improve on an already fun game, especially in such a quick window of time. I'm hoping that this video can shed some light on incremental game design and what it looks like when it's done well. Since game jams are so short, we, the audience, get a peek at the game design process if they continue making the game, how things can be improved on over time or outright changed. I'm still pretty new to YouTube, so I'm unsure if this kind of video is even helpful. Honestly, I just kind of wanted to make the video, but let me know in the comments below if it is or is not helpful. Anyway, on to the video. Alright, so just a quick recap of my original comments about the game. Soulward is a platformer game where the main mechanic involves the character's magical shard. You can throw this shard around the level and teleport to it, and also kill enemies with it. When you're hit while holding the shard, you don't die, but the shard flies around out of your hands and you have to go retrieve it. If you get hit while not holding the shard, you die. The shard being both the main movement mechanic and the way to kill enemies creates interesting choices for the player. Also, the fact that there is inherent risk whenever you use the shard helps keep the player on their toes with risk-reward decisions constantly. I really enjoyed the 2-life mechanic where you can get hit when you have the shard and you still have a chance to go grab it, or you can finish the level without it. The player can get put into a situation where they have to pull off a clutch set of maneuvers to survive. An additional design choice that helped make the game fun was the low gravity or floatiness of the character. This allowed some wiggle room for inaccurate throws. I could teleport to the shard and adjust my position in the brief second afterwards to land on the platform. 2 points of feedback I had for the game before the update was that there should be a trajectory line added and that you should be able to recall the shard when you mess up on your throw. Alright, so let's talk about the notable changes they made with this update. Now when you lose the shard, it will bounce around wildly but come back to you in about 3 seconds. This makes survival less about retrieving the shard and more about just landing safely and standing there for 3 seconds. So when I originally said that the player has to pull off a set of clutch maneuvers to survive, that's not really the case anymore. They decreased how floaty the character is. You're still able to adjust your landing after teleporting, just not nearly as much. And it's kind of funny because they actually added both of the feedback items I had for them, which were the trajectory line, and they also introduced a recall button for the shard. Though I didn't really see a need for it now, since they've also made it so the shard will come back to you after 3 seconds. I didn't really find myself using it very much. It's kind of interesting seeing how adding a list of features might make some of those features or other parts of the game, other mechanics, less useful. Definitely something to keep in mind. So they made some notable changes to the aiming now. There's now a time limit when you start aiming the shard. This helps with the pace of the game and requires the player to make quicker decisions. I did notice before the patch that the game was a lot more relaxing than it is now. Not a bad thing, it's just a different type of game at that point. Also, time slows down while you're aiming now. This is probably one of my favorite changes because there's a few sections when you need to throw the shard in the air right before you land on the spikes. So having the time slow down keeps the experience flowing and not too difficult. They also made some interesting changes to the mechanics of the shard. So the shard will change colors from green to gray after using it once in the air. This is great because it visually reinforces the fact that you're only able to throw the shard in the air once and it will only reset after throwing it into an enemy or a wall. This subtle change helps players not have to mash the throw button to know if they've already used that throw that time in the air. It's a little quality of life change that goes a long way. Another thing they changed is that throwing the shard into spikes will now kill the shard. This is another reason why I think the recall feature is not nearly as necessary as it was. I like this change since it saves the player time and makes it so I don't have to recall or start the level over again as much. Another feature they added that saves the player time is that the shard actually has a max distance now, and when it hits that max distance, a little noise plays. And usually it's off screen, and so that's why that's really important. The player doesn't have to wonder if the shard has hit its max distance. The little noise confirms that. They also changed the way that the shard interacts with the enemies. The way it used to work is that the shard would kill the enemy but go through them and land elsewhere. Now the shard will connect with the enemy and stop. So because of this change, the designers have started using enemies as anchor points of the levels, objects you must use to get to the next section of the level. Overall, this has decreased the threat of the enemies somewhat. So now there are a few sections of levels that are purposely designed to have you chain together enemy kills to progress through the level. While I didn't didn't find these particularly challenging. They were a hell of a lot of fun, but I would caution the designers from adding too many of these sections though, as they could probably get stale if they were overused. And with these additions came a couple of new problems that I found, and they were mainly tied to the level design. They added 10 levels to the game, and they are really, really difficult. I look like a damn fool on some of them, so I'm not really sure if something needs to be tweaked or if I'm just really bad at the game. But there are a few sections I couldn't complete just by jumping around or teleporting. I had to end up just jumping onto the spikes. What I found helpful was switching to a controller, and I kind of realized that a controller I think is necessary now. Only being able to aim the shard at 8 different angles with the WASD keys is far too limiting now. The second issue was that with the addition of these new levels came a new problem with the initial floatiness of the character. Now there are some tight spots that you have to fly over to, yet because of how much the character moves, you will automatically hit a spike if you don't immediately slow yourself down by pressing the opposite direction. This can be fixed by some basic tweaks to the affected levels. Alright, that's what I thought of the updated version of Soulward. Just wanted to give a quick thanks and shout out to the designers. I asked one of them what their future plans for the game were, and they said, right now we are definitely going to be working on it more, but we aren't quite sure yet how we want the final game to be. So here are their Twitter handles, and do make sure you go download the game and show your support. The link to the itch.io page will be in the description below. Let me know your thoughts about the video in the comments below, and if you enjoyed it, please do hit that subscribe button. It means a lot for a small channel like this, but regardless, thanks for watching.